Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Friday, working towards the weekend. If you've made it already, cheers. If not, we'll get you to the finish line here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. We're brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Big recruiting weekend for LSU football. We're going to talk about that in 15 minutes with Sam Spiegelman of Rivals. Do want to mention the Lady Tigers as well as Kim Mulkey's team will get its NCAA tournament journey underway later this afternoon at 5 o'clock. They're a 51.5-point favorite over Jacksonville, so I'm feeling pretty good about the win today. We'll talk about Sunday's game as well with Patrick Wright, the voice of the Lady Tigers, coming up in 90 minutes. We'll talk about yesterday in March Madness, a little bit of what's going on today as we sit here right now. Kentucky has just hit a bucket with 5 minutes and 20 seconds to play in the game. They lead Santa Clara by a single point. That is a 7-10 game between Kentucky and the Steve Nashless Santa Clara somethings. We'll see if Mark Pope can get Kentucky to the finish line. We'll get you updates on scores throughout the show today. Let's crank things up the way we do every day with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
Is it just me, or does today just feel a little better? Does it just feel a little easier? Is there a little tension released after what we watched last night at the box? I'm not here to tell you LSU's figured it out. I'm not here to say, look out, they've turned the corner, they're turning it on. I'm just saying it's been a minute since we could sit back and watch a game where LSU just completely controlled the pace, the flow, the action of a baseball game, and they did it last night. I asked for it like 3 times on the show yesterday. You got it last night. And the start of the game was noteworthy. Cam Johnson was just abysmal. He was nowhere near the strike zone as long as he was out there. I mean, he only got 4 outs, and one of them was a 3-2 pitch that missed by 2 feet, and John Pearson swung at it. He was nowhere near the zone. And you're looking at a guy, y'all know the story on Cam Johnson, 6'5", 250 pounds, 96-mile-an-hour left-hander. He's got a good changeup and a good slider. He cannot throw it over the plate. And I don't know what happened the first month of the season, but he couldn't throw it over the plate 2 years ago at LSU. He couldn't throw it over the plate last year at Oklahoma, and he hadn't thrown it over the plate in 2 outings in SEC play. And so for LSU to get off to a good start and to get a run in the first and then get the 4 spot in the second, that eased things up for sure, but that's not the lead, obviously. The lead is that your ace pitched like an ace. It was spectacular, and to me, it was Casan Evans' best career outing by a mile. Now, look, the game against Little Rock last year that he took over and struck out 9 in a row, that was more impactful, absolutely. LSU's season was on the line. You were down 5-1. He came in, stemmed the tide, shut him down, and you got the big hit from Fry, and LSU was off and running, and they won the game and ended up going to win the national title. That was a more impactful outing. But in terms of just going out there and pitching, this was the best version of Casan Evans I have ever seen. He was throwing nothing but strikes. He went to 2 3-ball counts the entire time he was out there, and that was for 7 2/3 innings. He had 1 walk. It was the last guy, and it was a 96-mile-an-hour fastball that just missed a little bit up. His 110th pitch was 96 miles an hour. And the most important thing to me, well, I shouldn't say that. The most important thing was that he was in the strike zone all night. All night. Only 2 3-ball counts the whole way. That's the most important thing. But secondary to that, and still very, very important, was that Casan Evans completely commanded all 4 of his pitches. He was pumping the fastball in for a strike whenever he wanted to at 94, 95, every time. He was flipping the breaking ball in for a first pitch strike when he wanted to. He was burying each breaking ball for a swing and a miss when he wanted to. And the changeup was elite. That is his best pitch. And at times, he's sprayed the ball so much that he just hasn't been able to work pitches off of one another. But because he was in the zone so consistently last night, when he would then throw pitches that faded out of the zone in the case of the changeup or darted out of the zone in the case of the curveball or the slider, they were chasing because they knew that he was throwing strikes and he was tunneling the fastball off the breaking stuff. And it was a thing of beauty. He was awesome. And I think, one of the very cool statistics that I pulled up from the box score when I was looking at it was that he got 15 strikeouts in this game. He got 12 of them swinging. Sometimes you just fool a guy and they buckle, and that's a great pitch too. But the stuff was so good, 12 of the 15 strikeouts he got, they waved over the top of. They had no answer for anything he was doing. None. And that is so vital. Jay Johnson made a great comparison last night. I didn't think about it, but it did. When in retrospect, it was very, very apt. He said when we watched Casan Evans last night, he felt like he was watching Rhett Lauder from that Wake Forest LSU Skeens Lauder game that Tommy White hit the walk-off in. That was probably the greatest pitcher's duel in the history of college baseball, based on where those guys were drafted, what those guys had been to that point in their career in that season, what those two teams looked like offensively, the amount of big leaguers on that field in that stadium with that on the line to play for a championship. Probably the greatest pitcher's duel in the history of college baseball. And Rhett Lauder that night was just throwing everything for strikes. He was floating the changeup up there. He was spinning breaking balls. He would ride the fastball up in the zone, and LSU just didn't really have a good answer for him. Now, Skeens was blowing Wake Forest away on the other side, so LSU matched him pitch for pitch there. But it was reminiscent of that. Certainly the stakes weren't as big. I wouldn't pretend that. But just from what it looked like visually, to continue to attack the zone and to continue to stay ahead of guys and then to continue to put them away was amazing. He threw 110 pitches, 76 were for strikes last night. And Oklahoma's not a brute offensive team, but it's a top 10 club right now. I don't think they'll finish there. But it's a solid offense with a lot of old players. Scored a lot of runs on Texas A&M pitching last week. And Casan Evans just stuffed them in a locker. It was phenomenal. And I'm not here to tell you he's turned a corner. I'm not here to tell you this is the same guy you're going to get every single weekend. But you needed this. If Casan Evans goes out there last night and goes 3 2/3 with 4 walks and 6 earned runs allowed, just some sort of disastrous outing. If that happens, hypothetically, you have to look at changing the face of this team, which is the starting rotation. They're still working through what they want to do defensively on the infield. They're still working through who they want to play day to day. They're still working through what the lineup looks like. They're still trying to nail down bullpen roles and who they can trust nightly, not just who's got the best stuff. Right now, the constant on this team is Evans, Moore, Schmidt. That's the only thing that has stayed the way it was opening weekend and remains. You had injuries in the outfield. You're shuffling where guys hit. Second base, third base, first base, DH, catcher, all up in the air. Bullpen roles not really decided. The starting rotation is the face of this thing. And if Evans isn't good last night, you have to seriously consider changing it with the extra day that you're provided by this Thursday, Friday, Saturday start. If you need to move Schmidt up, if you need to move Moore up, if you need to move Evans back or to the bullpen, you have to start having conversations. If he gets hit last night, that's both SEC weekends. His ERA was almost 6.5 entering last night. You've got to strongly consider changing what you're doing with the most consistent piece of your team. And instead, the conversation is not that on this day. The conversation is, can he harness that? Because this is the point in the calendar last year where Kate Anderson found it. We're about a week and a half, 2 weeks from the point in the calendar where Anthony Ianson found it. And Nate Yeski's got a track record of this, and stuff ain't a problem for Casan Evans. Now, they made some changes during this week with his preparation. Jay Johnson has challenged his assistant coaches to work as hard as possible. He said last night, it's easy when it's great when you're winning national championships and hanging banners and all that. The time that the players actually need you is now. And he took this very seriously on that extra day in Nashville. And when they flew home on Monday evening, we talked to Chris Blair yesterday. LSU landed somewhere around 5 o'clock, 5:30 on Monday. And Casan Evans and his catcher and Nate Yeske and Jamie Tutko went straight to the bullpen. And they worked. And whatever they did, it looked the part last night. Because this is something I've talked about on a few different occasions. You can fake it at times pitching, and you can fake it sometimes hitting in terms of the line score. I can get you a 3-for-4 day where you don't hit the ball worth a flip. Swing and bunt, a flare, and a 14 hopper through the shift. That's a fake day, but it looks good on the line score. You can do it pitching too. Reliever can come in and get a save and give up 2 screamers to the third baseman and a fly ball that gets caught at the track. Did you have your best stuff that day? No, the line score looks good. 1 inning scoreless, no walks. But sometimes the pitching matches the paper. Last night, if you watched that game and then you turned on the box score after the game was over and you go, okay, well, I saw that. That looked really good from Evans. Like, what did he do? And it says 7 2/3, 3 hits, 1 run. It was not earned, 15 strikeouts and 1 walk. Okay, that's pretty salty. And I'll leave you with this aspect of Casan Evans' start last night that was so impressive to me. He got 15 strikeouts. One of them was not one of the outs he recorded because Cade Arambidi couldn't find it, and it ended up being a base runner. So it counts as a strikeout on Evans' line, but it's not one of the outs he records. So 14 of his outs recorded of the 15 strikeouts, 14 were outs, and 9 were ground balls. That's the 23 outs he got. No fly balls. And in this era of baseball, first person I ever heard talk about this was Chris Bryant in like 2015. So it was over 10 years ago. I'd never heard anyone say this before. It's not how I grew up. But he would say, and you know the term launch angle by now, but he would say ground balls are outs, fly balls are doubles and home runs. You have to hit the ball in the air. And I'd never heard that my entire life. And that's the era that we're in now of launch angle and making sure that you're slugging and hitting doubles and home runs because those create runs more easily than singles do. Casan Evans did not allow Oklahoma to fly out in any inning last night. They did not produce a fly out. They struck out and they hit ground balls on the infield. If you limit teams to strikeouts and ground balls on the infield, it is going to be very difficult for them to score, especially when you've got 4 pitches. One of them is a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, and one of them is a devastating changeup. And we told you, entering the Vanderbilt weekend, I shouldn't say we, I did, and I jinxed him. I told you last Friday, Casan Evans has not given up a home run in his LSU career. So this is not something new that was like a one-off thing. No, he doesn't allow a lot of fly balls. The one change that he made last night that he alluded to, and we'll see if teams try to disrupt this moving forward because now it's out there in press conference form. He wanted to get the ball and pitch. The tempo is important for Casan Evans. He's a former shortstop. He's an athlete. He's not one of these quirky, deliberate pitchers. He wants to play. He wants to get the ball. He wants to go. He strikes a guy out. Give me the ball. Where's the next guy? And he kept that tempo all night last night. And he said it was disrupted at Vanderbilt. He just couldn't get into a rhythm. I'm not here to tell you that all of Evans' outings will look like that. But if he can do that a couple more times over the next 2 or 3 weeks, you're changing the outlook of this team because you're going to win more often than not when he does that. And if you've got a dog at the front of the rotation, it changes things. We know that around here. That's what I opened with on Monday. Yeah, they won a game. And yeah, they're not in a disastrous spot in terms of their record or their conference standing, losing a series at Vanderbilt, but it doesn't look like championship baseball. We're going to talk about the hitting in 15 minutes, and it wasn't a work of art last night offensively, but it was a work of art on the mound. It was brilliant by Casan Evans, and that is, we needed that more than oxygen around here. Awesome stuff from Casan Evans last night as LSU beats Oklahoma 7-1. They'll get back at it tonight at 6:30. It'll be Cooper Moore on the mound against LJ Mercurius. We'll talk about those guys a little bit later on in the show today. Our Friday shows brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish, and Shrimp. Let's transition over to football. It's a big recruiting weekend, including some big-name players from Louisiana that will be here for Lane Kiffin's staff. We'll talk about that with Sam Spiegelman next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing, lifetimeroofingla.com, lifetimeroofingla.com. You need to be able to trust your roofer. So if it's somebody that just comes in because there's been a storm and they might be gone by the time the storm damage is repaired and the new roofs are put on, can you really trust them? How about you trust a local company that was started right here in Baton Rouge by people from right here in South Louisiana. They're going to be here throughout storms, throughout hard times. So if there is an issue on your roof, or you want to know if there's an issue on your roof, send them up there for that inspection. If you need a new roof, they can help you with that. Even if financing needs to be done with your deductible or just to buy the roof outright, they can help you with financing. But more importantly, maybe you just need a repair. They can do that. Maybe you just need some fortification. You just need a tune-up. They can do that. They're not just here to sell you the new roof because it's the most expensive thing that's going to net them the most profit. They just want to help. That's what they're here for at Lifetime Roofing. Another thing they can help you with is gutters. Need gutters put in? They got you. Springtime, may need them. Siding, they got you. Windows, they can do that as well. So it's not just roofs over at Lifetime Roofing. Gutters, siding, and windows as well. Lifetime Roofing, find them online at lifetimeroofingla.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Friday shows brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. It's a Linton Friday. You want to get on by Corks. They are happy to have you. Government between Foster and Jefferson. Check out the menu, corksfishandshrimp.com. Got a little madness in St. Louis. Kentucky hits a bucket to tie the score with about 20 seconds to go against Santa Clara. Santa Clara comes down, kick out, 3-ball good with about 8 seconds to go. Kentucky inbounds, Otega Owe from 40 feet as time expires. Banked it in the bucket. We go to overtime at St. Louis. 3 game-changing plays in the last 20 seconds. Kentucky trying to stay alive. I don't know if I'm being hyperbolic to suggest Mark Polk might have gotten fired if they lose to Santa Clara, but we'll see. They still got 5 minutes of basketball to play. They are alive as we speak. Incredible stuff in St. Louis in the first window of the day. Let's talk a little football. Sam Spiegelman is with Rivals. Going to have to give us some time on a big recruiting weekend for LSU. He joins us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Sam, thanks for the time. How are you?
Doing great, Hunt. How about yourself?
Doing quite well. This is a time of year where a lot of visits are happening. There's going to be a spring evaluation period, obviously, as well, and it's Lane Kiffin's kind of first full cycle. So let's talk about what's going on campus this weekend, and I guess we'll start with Ahmad Hudson, someone that LSU fans certainly very familiar with, at least his family.
Yeah, this is a critical visit. This is his first time in Baton Rouge since Lane Kiffin, Joe Cox, and Billy Glasscock, since this whole crew has arrived in Baton Rouge. Of course, they were recruiting him at Ole Miss. We know that the elephant in the room is that Ahmad has publicly declared Nebraska as the team in front. He's done that since his last visit to Lincoln. So he's going to kick off his spring with back-to-back visits, Baton Rouge and then Lincoln, Nebraska. These are the top 2 contenders battling over the number 1 tight end in America, as we all just saw in Lake Charles, a fantastic 2-sport athlete. And the latter, that's going to be probably the biggest talk this weekend with Ahmad Hudson back on campus. We know that his father, Antonio, is a legacy for the Tigers, a standout men's hoops player over there. Ahmad very much intends to play both sports in college. If you ask him why Nebraska's in front, it's because they're recruiting him so hard from the football and the basketball side. LSU will get their first opportunity to make their pitch to Ahmad. Obviously, with Trey'Dez Green being one of the focal points of their offense this year, that's only going to help. And maybe the basketball side will catch up too.
I realize this is not exactly your corner of the store, Sam, but there's a little bit of question around LSU basketball right now. How much could that impact the recruitment of the number 1 tight end in the country across the street?
Yeah, certainly he plays for Ruston High School, so
right.
He's only used to winning. What he's done from a football angle, playing in all these state championships the last few years, I expect that that's going to be a huge part of it, just as much as it will from basketball. I think if you asked Ahmad right now what his first love was, I think he might take a little bit to think about it. He's going to go in a place that's going to put him in the best spot to compete in both sports. If you asked him last year when Brian Kelly was the head coach, LSU was probably the leading front runner at that point. He's not afraid to buy into programs. He's about relationships as well. He's factoring a number of different things into this recruitment. You could throw NIL in there and the opportunity to play for his hometown team where his parents are obviously alumni. I think that's going to factor just as much as maybe the future of the men's basketball program overall.
I have not watched any of Ahmad Hudson. I'm looking at his profile, and he's 6'6". I know I watched his dad play basketball, but is he similar to Trey Green, or is that just a lazy, well, they're from Louisiana and they're tall and they like basketball?
I wish it was a lazy comparison, but he honestly is probably ahead of Trey Green as a football player.
Okay.
You said it before. I'm not a basketball expert, but I can tell you this: a couple of buddies were in Lake Charles watching him. I know that he put up almost a triple double, and nearly a quadruple double if you count the 9 blocks he had in the state championship game. From the football angle, I know he's ahead of Trey Green. Trey was so raw coming out of East Fell and then at Zachary, and he really took a huge step as a senior. Ahmad, what he did in the state championship game, he had his best game of the season. He has a knack for showing up on these big stages. He's got athletic traits through the roof. And most importantly, he's driven as anyone in the state, and he's a top 15, 20 player in America for very good reason. I know it's hyperbolic. I know I'm stealing your diction, but I think he's going to be a better player than Trey Green when he gets to college.
Goodness gracious, Trey is something special, so that's one we'll certainly keep an eye on starting this weekend. Let's talk about blue chip wide receiver in Miguel Whitley, and then a 4-star running back in Trey Martin, 2 other players from Louisiana, where obviously Lane Kiffin's trying to keep folks home.
Yeah, LSU is doing a fantastic job in Miguel Whitley's recruitment. He's a top 100 player in America for Rivals. Again, I got to see him in the Caesars Superdome for when St. Aug played Carr in the state title game. I got to see him as an underclassman flashing. He is a fantastic athlete and a top priority for Lane Kiffin and George McDonald. They've gone in home with him shortly after taking the job in Baton Rouge. They got him on campus in January. Right now, I think it's safe to say that LSU is the team to beat in Whitley's recruitment. There are obviously some big contenders still waiting, including Ole Miss, Ohio State he'll be at next week. Tennessee has been swinging away here for a while, and he will have to explore these contenders. He's really only been to Baton Rouge, and he's been to A&M a few times. A lot of schools are trying to get into the mix with Whitley. They're all playing catch-up with the Tigers. And then Trey Martin, a top 10 running back in America, coming off a sensational junior season. That's why he's number 10 at his position in America right now. LSU has made a big splash since they offered in January. They finally jumped on board in his recruitment, one of their first in-state offers after Coach Kiffin and Kevin Smith arrived in town. They got him on campus. Listen, they're playing catch up with Alabama. Alabama was an early offer. He's been to Tuscaloosa a few times, but I think it speaks volumes that he's going to be back on campus this weekend for a second time in 3 months. He told me that LSU has continued to keep their foot on the gas with him. They had offered him at Ole Miss, and they were a part of his recruitment, and they picked up right where they left off. Houston is another team with some momentum. So is Ohio State, but this is a classic Alabama-LSU battle for one of the best in the state from North Louisiana, and this weekend will loom pretty large as he gets another look at LSU before he heads back to Tuscaloosa.
Visiting with Sam Spiegelman over there with Rivals, big recruiting weekend for LSU on campus, specifically with a lot of players from in the state. Of course, Aiden Anding, a cornerback on the current LSU roster. Jaden Anding is going to be in town this weekend. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I love where LSU sits with Jaden Anding. He's been to LSU literally as many times as Aiden has when he was visiting as a recruit, and he's visited quite a few more times since Aiden obviously enrolled in Baton Rouge. There's a lot of teams that want a part of Jaden Anding's recruitment, Oklahoma being probably the primary competition for the Tigers at this point. But LSU is sitting in a great spot with Jaden Anding. It probably didn't hurt that Blake Baker and Corey Raymond and this defensive staff was held over on Lane Kiffin's staff. So they've already built tremendous rapport with Jaden Anding. They're obviously in a great spot knowing his family, and obviously Aiden choosing to return this season. I think they're in a great spot. I don't think an early commitment is necessarily in the works, though. They do really love Jaden Anding. He might take a few more visits, but he's someone I ultimately think will be in this class and probably not too far away from locking in his decision.
You look at LSU's 2027 class, and it's got just 2 commitments, Jaden Bryant and Pop Houston. I don't even remember when the last time LSU got a commitment was. I guess it was Jaden Bryant. It says there's January 3rd, so it's been almost 3 months. Do you feel like there could be some coming in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, 100%. This is when things are about to pick up for LSU, especially on the recruiting trail. These spring visits, some of these kids we mentioned, some of these new visitors coming back into town this weekend, and guys who will return over the next couple of weeks. This is their chance to see what Lane Kiffin's offense looks like, what Blake Baker's defense looks like. They're going to start to pile up on this class. They're in a great spot with a lot of visitors, not only this weekend, but guys who will be on campus next weekend. They've really solidified their board over the last few weeks, and they're going to go hunting. We have a lot of RPMs already in for LSU with this class. Now it's just a matter of time of when these dominoes begin to drop. I think it's going to start picking up maybe as early as this weekend, but not too far distant future with later this spring, especially with the spring game. And then by June, July, they should go on a run as they put together what should be a special class when you mention the in-state talent for 2027.
No question about it. If you're looking for recruiting updates, you can find it over there. Rivals on 3. Sam Spiegelman, part of the team over there. Give us a little time on this Friday. Have a great weekend. Thanks, man.
Take care, Hunt.
He is Sam Spiegelman. Looks like Kentucky is probably going to survive and advance. They were down to a 40-foot heave from Otega Oweh at the end of regulation, and he splashed it home off the glass. They get into overtime. Santa Clara hit a couple of early shots, including a 3, and they were leading, but Kentucky's asserted themselves lately, and they're at the free throw line right now. We'll see if Mo Diabate can get that one to go. He does. So it's a 6-point lead for Kentucky with 31 seconds to go. In the madness, anything can happen, but it's an 8-0 run for Kentucky over a minute and a half, and Santa Clara is down to essentially its last gasp. There goes a 3, and it's an air ball. I think Santa Clara may be low on. Oh, then they hit a 3. It's unbelievable. They cut it to 3. There's 18 seconds to go, so we'll get you updated when we come back. I want to talk about LSU offensively last night at the box. Got it done. Did enough. Showed some patience. What else did I take away from LSU's offensive effort? We'll do that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. Swing Easy, GCBR.com. Weekend's always a great time to play a little golf. If you don't have a tee time or don't have 5 hours this weekend to squeeze in a round of golf, go to Swing Easy. They're on Segan at Perkins, and it's a different experience. You can play 18 holes at Pebble Beach in 45 minutes if you know what you're doing. It's a great way to go hang out with friends, mix in a little golf. If you want to work on your game, you can do that as well at Swing Easy Golf Club. They'll bring you a bucket of beers on ice. They'll put the basketball on TV. You can play some tunes on their turtle box. Comfortable seating. It really is a great place to hang out. So if you're looking for something to do this weekend, don't have any plans, but might want to hit some golf shots and watch some hoops, Swing Easy Golf Club is an awesome place to do it. Go by and see them at Perkins at Segan. Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. SwingEasyGCBR.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Kentucky Wildcats moving on to the round of 32. They survive on heck of an effort from Santa Clara. Santa Clara hit a 3 to take a 3-point lead with 8 seconds to go in regulation. Kentucky quickly inbounded with no timeouts, and Otega Oweh threw one in off the glass as time expired to send it to overtime, and the Cats win the overtime period by 5 in St. Louis. They beat Santa Clara 89-84. So that's the first madness of the day. I'm sure there is much more to come later on. We'll remind you about Fabry Chevrolet GMC, FabryChevrolet.com. FabryChevrolet.com is the website. If you're looking for a truck, I can't give you any better option than Fabry Chevrolet GMC. It's the best option going right now because currently they've got up to $11,000 off MSRP on Chevy Silverados. Up to $11,000 off. That's 5 figures in savings. Or 1.9 APR financing. They got GMC Sierras up to $13,000 off MSRP. Or 0.0 APR financing. You can't beat that. So if you're looking for a new truck, make that short drive to St. Francisville from Baton Rouge, from Baker, from Zachary, from New Roads or Ventress or anywhere in the Felicianas. Head over to St. Francisville on Highway 61 and say hey to my friends at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Get behind the wheel of a new truck this weekend at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. All right, let's talk offense. I spent the first 12 minutes of the show today on Casan Evans because the first 12 minutes needed to go to Casan Evans. He was sensational last night. Offensively, LSU did enough to win the game. And I want to be clear. In college baseball, some patience is a good thing. In college baseball, sometimes teams kick the ball around if you give them that opportunity. Tough for LSU to kick it around too much last night when Oklahoma goes out there and strikes out 16 times. But LSU only struck out 7 times last night. They put the ball in play, and Oklahoma threw up all over itself in the second inning and made 3 errors in the inning, all throwing errors on the infield, and LSU started the merry-go-round. It's going to happen sometimes. Now, I'm not here to tell you that's elite offensive play by LSU, but it is going to happen sometimes. And sometimes starting pitchers in college aren't going to have it. Vanderbilt's starter on Sunday had nothing, and LSU took its walks, didn't extend much, and put up some crooked numbers. And last night, Cam Johnson had nothing, which he didn't last week either. And sometimes that can be a little bit difficult on the psyche of a hitter. Like, yes, I would much rather hit off Cam Johnson than Aaron Nola in college. But at least I know Aaron Nola is going to throw me nothing but strikes, and I can be aggressive and go take my swings. I might whiff at the sharp slider or the fastball painted on the outside corner, but at least mentally, I'm like engaged in the at-bat. When Cam Johnson's up there spraying it all over the place like a 12-year-old in player pitch, like, it's hard to lock in because you take a little bit of your aggressiveness away because you don't want to extend the strike zone and help him out when he can't throw a strike. It's a little bit tough on the psyche of the hitter. But LSU did what it needed to do and got the ball in play and got the 4 runs across. But it wasn't a great offensive night. Like, if you told me that LSU was going to score 7, I'd feel okay about it. But it wasn't a great offensive night. LSU was 7 for 30 in the game. That's a 233 average. LSU with runners on base was 4 out of 22. That's 182. LSU with runners in scoring position was 3 out of 18. Now, I'll tell you that I would rather 3 out of 18 than, 3 out of 6. 3 out of 6 is a 500 average. 3 out of 18 is a 167 average, but at least you've created some opportunities. And LSU got the leadoff guy on. They did a really good job of that. They had 8 opportunities to hit because they didn't hit in the bottom of the ninth. They got the leadoff runner on 6 out of 8 times. Unfortunately, you only scored that runner 2 out of the 6. You left him stranded throughout the middle innings. So you did some things well. You did not help Cam Johnson out, except John Pearson's one swing. And you got him out of the game early by driving his pitch count up because he was nowhere near the strike zone. You created scoring opportunities. You put the ball in play. You didn't strike out. But you're still not slugging. You're still not coming up with enough hard contact. You did in the 7th and 8th innings in Nashville on Sunday. But a lot of what you did in the 8th inning on Friday in Nashville was helped by a lot of wild pitches and whatnot. And a lot of what you did on Sunday early was a lot of help from their pitcher. And you got a lot of help from Oklahoma pitching early. I do like the at-bats John Pearson is giving. He had 2 more hits last night. I do love the fact that Omar Cerna is finding some things. He got 2 more hits last night, drew a walk. One of his hits was a double that he laced into left field. The ceiling on Cerna is very, very high. And we also know that LSU is very left-handed with its best bats. Like, Milam's going to be in there. He's better left-handed. Brown's going to be in there. He's left-handed. Curiel's going to be in there. He's left-handed. At this point, like, York is an everyday player. He's left-handed. You need some right-handed punch. And, like, Stanfield's awesome, and I want him in there, but he's not going to give you a lot of punch. He's going to hit some doubles, and that's great, but he's not going to hit for power. He's not going to, like, change the scoreboard a lot. Pearson and Cerna can. And Aaron Beatty's not right now, although he's been okay. But if you've got a couple more right-handed bats you can trust when teams go to a left-hander, I think that's a big positive for this team as you continue to try to find your way on offense. Look, 2 doubles and no homers is not awesome. But you created some traffic. You did draw 8 walks. You were hit by a couple pitches, and you scored 7 runs. So at this point, I'm not in the business of like just completely dismantling this offensive effort, only to state that they have a lot of room to grow. But I just don't know that you're going to get a ton of 0 for 7s from Milam and Brown, which is what you got last night, and you still scored 7 runs. Aaron Beatty and York, if you want to toss in there, they were 1 for 6. So you're talking about 2 for 13 from kind of like your everyday players, and you still scored 7 runs. I think that's good. And the fact of the matter is that while this offense continues to try to evolve, the pitching's got to pick them up. And you did last night. And I trust the guy you're sending out there to start tonight. I trust the guy you're sending out there to start on Saturday. You've not used Rizzi. You've not used Sheeran. You've not used Guidry. You've not used Garcia. Like, you still have a lot of arms. Those guys are going to have to be very good while this offense kind of figures some things out. Like, you're looking at this team right now, and Steven Milam's hitting 241. Zach York's hitting 278. Aaron Beatty's hitting 270. Like, you've got a bunch of batting averages in there that, based on the competition you've played to this point, and you're only 4 games into league play, the rest is against non-league opponents. You got a lot. I mean, at this point in the year, LSU's usually got a lot of guys hitting 340. A couple guys hitting 408. And you don't have that. Like, Brown's hitting 391 and Curiel's hitting 326. But you're trying to figure out how to put guys out there offensively. You'll take some help when the other team will give it to you, and hope the pitching will pick you up. And last night, that was exactly how it played out. And it's exactly what LSU needed at that point, was to have a great starting pitching outing, and you got it. So the offense has a ways to go, and they're facing a really tough arm tonight that I'll talk about in 15 minutes. But last night, some good things. Patience, ball in play, couple of hits from some righty guys who were trying to work their way into the lineup, and you did it to help Casan Evans, who took it the rest of the way. So last thing on last night's game, and we'll turn the page to tonight and into Sunday at 2 o'clock, is that I loved another good outing, a clean outing from Zach Cowan. He was brilliant through 3 1/3 on Friday of last week when it looked like LSU was dead in the water. And I talked about him yesterday and how he can be helpful. And he came in, he threw 11 pitches, 8 of them were strikes. He got you 4 outs, got a strikeout, didn't allow any base runners. That's what you need. Like, I'm not ready to put him right there where Guidry and Sheeran are, and even Rizzi to an extent, but I'm perfectly willing to suggest he can get there because he did it last year. So having 2 good outings in a row, I think, is a very positive thing for Zach Cowan. It kind of goes in the shadows because LSU was in control of the game, up 7-1 when he comes in and gets 4 outs, when probably a lot of people were watching March Madness, or it was late on a school night, so you weren't paying attention anymore. But he did come in, throw it over the plate, use the changeup, got the spinner working, and, like, it was okay. So that's a good thing for Cowan moving forward, to have 2 good outings in a row, and I think he's in a good headspace based on the press conference he gave on Wednesday, I believe. So that's another guy that you hopefully can use moving forward. Pitching to that point has got to pick these guys up while they're figuring out offensively. Cowan and Evans, big part of that last night. So good win for LSU, moved to 2-2 in league play, and now you're in an opportunity where if you can split the next 2, you get a series win, and if you can win tonight, got an opportunity with a really talented arm on Saturday to go try to sweep this thing. So I'm not going to get ahead of myself on that. We'll talk about getting a split right now. That seems very, very doable. Got a tough arm that you're facing tonight. We'll discuss that at the top of the hour at number 2. I want to remind you again about my friends over at Corks Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. It's a Lenten Friday. Want a po' boy? Corks. Shrimp platter? Corks. Catfish platter? Corks. If you're heading out to Alec Box Stadium tonight or on Saturday, you want to feed some folks that are out there in the parking lot before you go on in, Corks is happy to feed in bulk. They do a great job with catering, so check out the menu at corksfishandshrimp.com. I heard something, saw something really cool last night. I'm going to play it for you when we come back to close out the hour. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com. Jonathan Carbo and his team do a great job with property and casualty insurance. I'll tell you about it just about every day. So if you're a business and you're looking for a second set of eyes, either to audit your policies or to present another option at renewal, obviously the Highland Insurance Group is happy to help you out with that. But they can also do group and employee benefits. It's a complex deal, but it's important. And if you're with this carrier that's kind of been jacking rates up and up and up over the last couple of years, and you're just sick of these renewals that come with this 14, 16, 18, 21% bump in premium, well, get a second opinion from the folks at the Highland Insurance Group. They are happy to help you out with your employees. You're with your group employee benefits. So that's important to keep people in your organization, to recruit new folks into your organization. If you're sick of those healthcare renewals, sick of those benefits renewals, want a second set of eyeballs, the Highland Insurance Group can help you out with that. They're online at HighlandIG.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Gotros Outdoor Power, Gotros Outdoor Power, 2 locations, one here in Baton Rouge on Airline Highway. You can't miss that one. They've got a mountain of inventory over there. Of course, they've got the Hustlers. If you're looking for a zero-turn mower, there's a ton of them over there on Airline Highway. Also got them in Gonzales as well. And remind you that next week, Mower Madness, March 23rd, which of course is Monday, through the 28th, which is Saturday, it's Mower Madness. Everything's on sale through the entire week. Going to be the best prices they've got all year. So if you want to get by and get 15% off all Echo products, you can do it during Mower Madness. $250 off all Hustler Raptors, up to 32% off MSRP on Hustler commercial zero-turn mowers. Plus, they'll be raffling off a pair of DeWalt 20-volt blowers at each store Friday at the open house. So get by and see them at Gotros at Airline Highway or in Gonzales next week for Mower Madness. The deals will be incredible. So you need a new zero-turn, this is the time to go do it at Gotros Outdoor Power. All right, I love play-by-play, guys. And this one kind of hit me last night when I was watching, saw it on Instagram. Kent Pavelka has been calling Nebraska basketball for over 40 years. Over 40 years on the mic at Nebraska basketball. And you may not know this, but Nebraska, until yesterday, had never won an NCAA tournament game. Never. And he had been on the mic for 40-plus years. And I saw this video of him as the clock counted down yesterday and Nebraska got a victory. And if you can visualize this on the radio, because I'll tell you, we're going to play it for you. He's sitting courtside. He's, of course, an older man. He's in a red bow tie, like straight out of an MLB broadcast from like 1954. And this is what the end of the broadcast, end of the game sounded like from the 40-plus year voice of the Nebraska Cornhuskers basketball team as they won a tournament game for the first time under his watch.
2 seconds, 1 second left to go, and there's the horn. There's the game! Nebraska's first NCAA win in history in Oklahoma City over the Troy Trojans. It's all over. It's all over. All the years going home from conference tournaments, sitting in front of the television, and the ache in the pit of your stomach wishing you could be there, and then getting to the NCAA once in a while and not winning. All that's history now, and not being a part of it. You know, now you don't have to go home and watch and dream. Watch and dream.
I mean, that was just awesome because at a certain point, he just dropped the basketball and he just started talking to Nebraska fans. Like, I know I'm there with y'all. I'm right there, and you never get it. And I know if you're listening and you're a Saints fan, you felt that way, not when they win the Super Bowl. This is a different deal. When you win a playoff game, when Oz Hakeem dropped the ball, or maybe even when Hartley kicks a field goal and the Saints make it to the Super Bowl, like that's what you get from Jim Henderson. LSU were a little bit spoiled from this perspective. If you can go back to the 2003 national championship, it's probably not that. Maybe going to the Sugar Bowl under Saban kind of felt that way, where it's just been so long and the weight kind of lifted off. I certainly felt that way when the Cubs, won the pennant and went to the World Series. Nebraska didn't win the championship, and that would be a completely different thing. But I think a lot of us, at least, can empathize with a lot of struggles over a long period of time and then finally breaking through. For me, like when LSU made it to the Final Four in basketball, I mean, I was only 18 at that point. This guy's been calling it courtside for 40-plus years. I thought that was very cool, very raw, very emotional. I realized that it had the Moneyball clip behind it, which over dramatized it. That's just where we got it from Instagram. I don't have the call raw, unedited, but I just thought that was very, very cool. And one of the cool things in sports, like I don't want to hear Ole Miss or A&M's guy doing that, but I don't give a rip about Nebraska. So hearing a guy that's been doing it that long to have that emotion, I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, man, it breaks my heart because as a Pelican fan, I can only imagine being there and just be like, man, I was here at the bottom when they was giving away tickets to Hunt. At one point in time, I got Pelican tickets because I went and bought a large smoothie from Smoothie King. That's where I've come from.
You know what? It leaves the door open though.
Yeah.
My door is only open one way. It's LSU basketball going back to the Final Four and winning it. I've seen the Cubs do it. I've seen LSU baseball do it with my own eyes twice. I've seen LSU football do it with my own eyes 3 times. Like that, I would much rather be where I am than have never seen anything.
Yeah.
But there's something about having the door open. And the only true time that I really felt that in recent memory, because like I was a high school kid when LSU won in 2003. When the Cubs won in 2016, like I was 28 years old, and I'd watched a lot of crappy baseball, and I'd felt the weight of the curse, and I'd had that type of heartbreak before where they choked it away in 2003, and I thought they were the best team in 2008, and they got swept out of the playoffs. And now I don't have that anymore because they've already won. There's a charm to having never done it.
Man, you say that.
Is there?
I bet Browns
assuming
fans,
it happens.
Yeah,
if it never happens, there's no charm. But assuming it happens, there's charm.
Okay, because I'm about to say, I bet Browns fans right now don't feel that way at all.
Well, Cleveland got its Cavs deal, but the Indians / Guardians have had their heartbreak, and the Browns are atrocious. But I think about all the time. I do a lot of emceeing around town with LSU, like alumni events, and speak to groups that are interested in LSU and all that kind of stuff. And I often reference like College Station, Texas, and places where they just have never seen it. I mean, Ole Miss and Mississippi State climbed the mountain finally, but like A&M hasn't won anything except women's basketball in our time. Like Arkansas has a basketball if you remember the early 90s, but people my age can't do that, and I'm knocking on 40's door here. So I consider myself very, very fortunate that my teams have climbed the entire mountain, but when you hear something with that much emotion in it, I just think it's cool, and it's something sports can offer. And yesterday certainly had that with Nebraska winning. We'll get you caught up on some scores from around the country in college basketball and March Madness here in the second hour. We'll talk some LSU baseball in the first segment. We'll also talk a little LSU women's basketball in 35 minutes with Patrick Wright as they get ready to roll in about 3 hours from now. Come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. It doesn't have to be a huge transformational renovation. If you want that, David Duvall and One Bath and Closets can do it. They can pull out tubs, pull out showers, put in tubs, put in showers, redo the floors, handle the plumbing, do the vanity, the whole. They can do the works in your closet or your bathroom. But maybe that's not what you're looking for. Maybe because of your budget or just because of what your issue may be, you want to do something smaller. That is absolutely in their purview at One Bath and Closets. The thing they do the most is a tub-to-shower conversion. If you've got a big hulking bathtub that you never used, that was built in the early 90s and has all the jacuzzi features, use that space for a new walk-in shower. Take the tub out, put the shower in. It can be done in 3 to 5 days. If you already got a shower, you can put a linen closet right there. These are the things that David Duvall and his team can do. Get that consultation at OneBathAndClosets.com. It's One Bath and Closets. They're online at OneBathAndClosets.com.